Have you ever thought, I'm creating content, I'm growing my visibility, I'm trying to build my email list, so where are my clients? If that sounds familiar, today's video is for you. Because I don't think most entrepreneurs have a visibility problem. I think they have a conversation problem. And in 2026, the businesses that grow won't necessarily be the ones creating the most content. Amen and hallelujah for that, right? They'll be the ones creating the most trust. So let's talk about that today. All right, let's talk about what started happening in the marketplace that I started witnessing back in mid-2024. You guys know from 2020 to about 2023, we could throw a program out there, a course out there, and people would buy it, and we didn't have to really establish a lot of trust. We could create content and it would convert into clients. But that started to shift, I saw, in early to mid 2024. And what's happening in the marketplace right now, the 2026 Edelman Trust Barometer, I thought this was so interesting, found that 70% of people are hesitant to trust people who see the world differently than they do. Think about that for a second. Trust is becoming harder to earn. People are more cautious. They're more skeptical. They're more selective. They're researching more before they buy. They're asking more questions, and they're taking longer to make decisions. And as business owners, we're feeling that. People may be watching your content for months before reaching out. You've heard me talk about that before. I have had people that have purchased my program or hired me one-to-one as a coach, and I come to find out I'd never seen their name before, but they had been following my content for a while and lurking in the background. They may join your email list and just quietly observe. They may never reply. They may attend your webinar, listen to your podcast, follow you on social media, and still not be ready to buy. But that doesn't necessarily mean your marketing isn't working. What it means is that trust has become more important than ever. And I think you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. That's changing how our clients are made. That's changing how the conversions are done. Because visibility gets us the attention, but it's the trust that creates the action when they go to buy. And that's where I think most of us are getting stuck. So I want to talk to you about broadcast marketing versus relationship marketing. For years, most marketing advice has been built around broadcast marketing. Now, what is broadcast marketing? Broadcast marketing is all about pushing. It's push marketing, pushing your message and getting it out in front of as many people as possible. So things like radio ads, TV ads, all the stuff that is pushed at you, more content, more reach, more followers, more impressions, more eyeballs. And listen, visibility matters. I teach that. I'm a visibility strategist, so it matters. But here's the thing. You can't build a business if nobody knows you exist, right? So that's why the visibility is so important. It absolutely matters. The content is the first step of my framework. The problem happens when visibility becomes the entire strategy. When entrepreneurs come to me and they're saying, well, if I just post more, if I just get more followers, if I just get more views, then the clients will come. But visibility itself doesn't create the clients. Visibility just creates the first piece, which is the awareness. And the awareness is really important, but it is only the beginning. So let's talk about relationship marketing. Relationship marketing, which is what I prefer, asks a different question. Instead of asking, how many people can I reach? It asks, how many relationships can I build? And I think this is where the biggest opportunity exists right now. In fact, I know it does. Let me give you some examples of what I'm talking about. Think about collaborations. When you're invited onto someone's podcast to speak to their community, partner on a workshop, you're being introduced by someone the audience already trusts. The person hosting you has endorsed you and essentially is saying to their audience that they trust you. That trust transfers to you. Think about referrals. A referral is one of the fastest trust-building tools that exists because someone already believes in you and shares that confidence with someone else. And then there's the conversations. What I'm talking about with conversations, the DMs on social media. People call them private messages, direct messages, whatever that is. It's a DM or a private message online. A networking event, those have conversations. A coffee chat, there's a great conversation. An email reply, that opens up a conversation. The quick follow-up after a webinar or a live masterclass or a workshop. Those moments often build trust faster than weeks of content can ever do. Because content helps people know you, so it is important. But the conversations help people trust you, and trust shortens the path to becoming a client. People convert into buyers faster when they know they can trust you, and you've established that. This is the exact framework that I teach inside my 8-week group coaching accelerator called Business Visibility Made Easy. What I teach is that content creates visibility. Visibility creates the conversations. The conversations create the opportunities, and the opportunities are what create the clients. And so it's this conveyor belt that I want you to get on. The beginning part of the conveyor belt, you could call it a pipeline. You could turn it vertically and call it a funnel. Whatever your visual works for you. I like a conveyor belt, a horizontal conveyor belt, kind of like the people mover at the airport. The first step of it is the content. Then we move on because now you've got visibility. Then the conveyor belt moves that visibility over into creating conversations for you. The conveyor belt moves those conversations towards, what does it create? Opportunities. And at the end of the conveyor belt, after you've gone through all of those things, that's where your clients are waiting. But most entrepreneurs stop at the visibility part. They stop right in the middle of the people mover, and that's not very good. They create the content, they post consistently, they send the emails, and then they wait. They sit in their kitchen, at the kitchen table, and wait. How do I know this? Because that's where my office is. But listen, visibility is only step 2. The real magic happens when the visibility starts to create the conversations for you. When someone replies to your email, and there's so many fun, creative ways that I teach to get our subscribers to want to reply to us. Maybe someone comments on your post. There's a conversation, and there's so many fun ways to get people to reply and comment on our posts. Maybe somebody reaches out to you after hearing you on a podcast. That's happened for me. Maybe somebody joins your free Facebook group, and you know, if you've been with me for any length of time, that the biggest thing to do when you have your own community or your own Facebook group is to set up your membership entry questions in a way that leads to list growth, so that they will not only be added to your list as a subscriber, where you could get them to reply back and have a conversation there, but also if they join a free Facebook group, you can send them a private message. If they join your community on School, Mighty Networks, Circle, Heartbeat, you can send them a private message. That's an opportunity. That's a conversation. So I'm talking about opportunities for referrals, opportunities for collaborations, opportunities for speaking engagements, and opportunities for sales conversations. And those opportunities become clients. So when I say the word client, I know we all automatically think about somebody buying what we sell, right? They bought the product, or they bought the 8-week group coaching program, or they bought the 1-to-1 package. But I want you to think deeper. A client, in general terms, could be a referral partner, because it's technically a client. It's going to make you money. Collaboration, to me, that's a client, because that person has enlisted their trust in me, which could lead to income and business growth. And so what I often tell my students and my clients is, don't just measure visibility, or heaven's sake, measure virality. Don't get me started on that. Don't chase the vanity numbers, people. I'm a prime example of someone who has a very successful business and has for many years without ever going viral, without having a massive email list, without having a massive social media following. I want you measuring the conversations. I would rather you track and count the analytics of how many connections and how many conversations you have had over the course of a week, a month, 60 days, 90 days, rather than looking at and tracking the analytics of the algorithm on the platforms we can't control, the analytics of your Instagram account, or your posts, or your LinkedIn impressions. Don't get me started on those. Who knows what those are doing? Nobody. And how much you reach out, how much reach you're getting on Facebook. I would rather you put those analytics to the side and not focus on them as much as you focus on how many other people am I talking to, because the conversations are where the business growth actually starts to happen. And it's way more fun than tracking a stupid analytic of an algorithm, right? The conversations are what build the trust, and the trust is where the money is made. This is how I was successful in sales for so many years in corporate. It's the trust is where the money is made. So you're probably thinking at this point, okay, Tracy, this sounds great, but how in the world does this connect to what you teach, which is list growth and leads? All right, so let's connect this directly to list growth so I can make it more clear. Many people think that growing an email list is simply about creating another free lead magnet, a checklist, a PDF, a freebie. And while those things can absolutely help and they're important, list growth is often a visibility in a relationship situation. Your content creates the visibility, like we've been talking about. The visibility creates the conversations. The conversations create the trust, and when people trust you, they want to stay connected, and they'll subscribe to your email list. They'll listen to your podcast. And when your podcast is set up for list growth, like I teach my students, they will join your list. They follow your content, and when your content is strategic, like I teach my students, they will join your list or get into the DMs with you. Not because you tricked them into downloading something, but because they wanted more of what you're sharing. Some of the best subscribers you'll ever get come from relationships, not random traffic, not cold audiences, relationships. And that's why I teach the content and visibility first, because that is what starts the entire conveyor belt process that I'm talking about. Hope this is making sense. We could also look at it in terms of a flywheel, if that helps your visual better. Let's talk about that. This is, I think, the piece that most marketing frameworks leave out, is how everything gels together. When opportunities become clients and you serve those clients well, something really powerful starts to happen. They start talking about you. They start referring people to you. They mention your name in conversations in rooms that you may not ever have been in. They invite you to be on a podcast, or they hook you up with a cool podcast host. They introduce you to opportunities, speaking engagements, affiliate opportunities. They become advocates for you and for your business. And those referrals create more visibility, which creates more conversations, which creates more opportunities, which creates more clients. And the flywheel cycle starts all over again. And that's why I don't believe sustainable business growth comes from constantly creating more and more and more content forever. Sustainable business growth comes from creating relationships that eventually create opportunities on your behalf. And that's when business starts to feel easier and, dare I say, way more fun? Wouldn't it be more fun to think about the conversations and the human beings you're connecting with rather than chasing an algorithm? Because the relationships you've built begin working for you even when you're not actively marketing. One of my clients and one of my students in my alum mastermind, Valerie Mummert, she has had this happen for her recently, and it's so fun. She said, my name is being mentioned in rooms that I'm not even in at the moment. That is the power of developing relationships and making connections. So, what do I want you to do about all this? Here's the question I want you to ask yourself this week. How can I create more conversations? Not more posts. Okay, but don't get me wrong. I'm not giving you permission to stop posting content. That's not what I'm saying. We have to have the content because that's the first step of the conveyor belt to get to the visibility flywheel that we just talked about. But I don't want you exhausting yourself doing it. One of my students shared with me that she said, Tracy, what this content takes so long to do. It takes me a full day. What am I doing wrong? And when we dug into it, oh my stars. She was trying to create, she's on Instagram, she was trying to create 7 days of content, week in, week out, fresh content every day for Instagram. And I was like, oh no, ma'am. No, ma'am. I teach an anchor piece of content, repurposing it into some fresh social media posts, sprinkling in your evergreen stuff, and we set up a system for you with a specific flow and cadence that you can do week in and week out fast and with ease, because she doesn't need to be doing that. And that, I was just like, oh man, when I found that out, I was like, nope, let's dig into this and let's switch this around. And she was so thankful she asked the question. I don't want you worrying about getting more followers or going viral with more views, right? I want you having conversations. I want you thinking of fun, creative ways to get your subscribers to reply back in the inbox when they get your email. Reach out to me if you need help with that. And in your DMs. So think to yourself, who could you follow up with? Who do you need to reconnect with? Do you have some people you collaborated with in the past that might want to do that again? I do. I have some podcasts that I've been on last year and I'm like, oh, I need to reach out to them and see if they need a guest again. Or, can I teach a training in your membership again? Do you have some old clients or students that might need or want a tune-up? Or maybe they want to become your affiliates. And here's another thing to think about. Who could you refer? Who could you refer? Because when you refer someone, they will remember you. They will be thankful and they will strive to refer you more often. It's that reciprocity. Who could you collaborate with? Who could you invite onto your podcast or to do a live training with on Instagram or Facebook or Substack or wherever? Who could you exchange a blog with? What about your community? You in turn do the same. You do that for them, and they will in turn do the same for you. Who could you invite for a coffee chat? I'm not talking about a marathon conversation. I'm talking about 20 minutes. You spend the first 5 minutes talking about yourself, they take the next 5 minutes, and then you start talking about each other and how you can help each other. Because every conversation, I've seen it so many times, has the potential to become an opportunity. And remember, the opportunities are what create the clients. So if there's one thing I want you to remember from today, it's this. Your content matters. Visibility matters. In fact, visibility, again, content and visibility is where everything starts. But that's not where it ends, because the visibility and the content alone do not create clients. It used to. But times have changed and things are different. It's relationships that do it. So keep creating the content, keep building the visibility, but move people down your conveyor belt. Keep growing that email list, but don't stop there. Use your visibility to create conversations. Use those conversations to create the opportunities, and let those opportunities become clients. Because remember, I'm going to go over it again. Content creates visibility. Visibility creates conversations. Conversations creates opportunities, and opportunities create clients, and clients create referrals. And referrals create more visibility. And there we go with the flywheel, right? The flywheel of business growth starts to run and churn for you. And that's how you grow your audience, build your email list, generate more leads, and attract more clients without having to pay for ads or be online 24/7. And that's exactly what I teach. If you found this helpful, I would love for you to share it with another entrepreneur who's telling you, I'm creating content consistently, but where are my clients? And if you'd like help building visibility strategy that leads to more, or you have questions about working with me, DM me or email me. I have one-to-one spots open. I've got some awesome summer VIP monthly coaching available just for this summer. So reach out and let's talk about it. I have an awesome newsletter I cannot wait for you to dive into. Go to tracybeavers.biz/newsletter, because I know you're ready to grow your email list, attract those consistent clients, and do it in the way that I just described. And that's what I give you every week in my newsletter. And I also give you some really silly things that have been going on in my house that I probably shouldn't tell you about, but I think it's entertaining. So it's not the same old boring marketing stuff you've heard before. All right, I say this every single week. Don't go it alone. Being an entrepreneur is freaking hard, because some days everybody wants to buy what you're selling, and other days you feel like nobody can remember your name. And if you think you're alone in that, you are not alone in that. We all have days like that. So get yourself into a community of support where you can get feedback and get encouragement. I want you to have a great balance of the week and weekend, and I want you to remember that when one of us rises, we all rise. So that is why we have got to keep cheering each other on.